So, ich stehe hier in der Gamescom mit dem Lead Multiplayer Designer Thad Sasser and so in the beta from Battlefield Hardline, you obviously got a ton of feedback.
Yes.
Not all positive, of course, but I think that's necessary because no game is perfect.
Right.
And I would like to ask you, what are the top 3 things that people didn't like, but you changed them?
So the top 3 things. One of the biggest bits of feedback we got was that the explosives were really breaking some of the fantasy, that nobody really liked the idea of cops running around with stingers and RPGs and so on. So we've removed those off the player classes essentially and reduced the frequency of explosives. We've also stripped a lot of them off the vehicles like the cat and the attack chopper and so on. So you'll see a lot more gun-based gameplay than you will explosive-based gameplay in Battlefield Hardline.
Okay, and...
Oh, sorry, there were 2 more.
Yeah, I think you mentioned the car physics. Many people complained about that.
Yep.
It was too glitchy and you slide it along.
Yep.
And you said you changed it already.
We have. We've already updated and improved the car physics, and we're working on it further. I mean, obviously, transport vehicles and car chases and high speed and so on is very important for Hardline. As you can imagine, with a mode like Hotwire, where it's all about vehicle chases and high-speed pursuit, it's important that the physics feel good. So this is a really important topic for us, and we've got people working on this now.
And obviously, in number 3, Survivalist. Many people talked about that already.
Yes, we received a lot of feedback, and thank you very much for the feedback. We do appreciate it. The primary feedback we got was negative, that players didn't like it when they shot somebody, they fell down, they got back up later. So what we've done is we've changed Survivalist. Now Survivalist is going to be more of a counter to explosive gadgets. So when you step on that laser trip mine and it blows you up, Survivalist will activate and you'll be able to pick yourself back up. Or if somebody launches a grenade at you or hits you with an RPG, Survivalist will activate and allow you to pick yourself back up. So we felt it's a much better fit as kind of a counter, that rock, paper, scissors style gameplay for explosive weapons. We know that some players are frustrated by explosive weapons. They want it to be more about the gunplay, and Survivalist lets them get back into the fight after they get killed with an explosive weapon.
Okay, cool. So obviously we heard about a ton of new game modes that you brought into Hotline. All of them are very exciting. Are there ones that we haven't heard about yet?
Yes.
So there will be other game modes.
Yes.
That's very cool.
We've got at least one new game mode that we haven't talked about yet. You'll hear about in the future, though.
That's very cool. One last question. Battlefield 4 was all about levolution.
Yes.
The idea that the map is not constant and everything is changing because it's essentially war. And if you shoot an RPG into a house, that's gonna blow up. So obviously you did something about that. And how is it going to play out?
Well, the biggest bit of feedback we got on levolution is that players really like the spectacle initially, but after about 5 or 10 playthroughs, the spectacle element starts to wear a little bit thin, right? And what players really wanted was the ability to control the map, whether it's creating new routes or, creating new cover objects or, things of that nature. That's really what we focused on with Hardline. Whether you're creating a new entry route into some place or you're denying the enemy cover or what it might be, we're focused on allowing players to interact with the battlefield and change the shape of the battlefield as opposed to primarily providing a spectacle. You guys have seen in Downtown, for example, in the beta, we had the crane fall. Now the crane is a great example of spectacle, but it's also a good example of changing the gameplay. If you played, you know that when the crane falls across the road, for example, it limits the car axis, it changes the flow. It provides covered infantry routes between different buildings and so on. And that's the kind of thing we're really focused on with Battlefield Hardline, is we want that player-activated destruction to really change the space and allow players to use this to their advantage.
Yeah, very cool. I'm very excited for Battlefield Hardline. We talked about that already. There is going to be another beta.
Yep.
And what you already said was you're listening, you're reading Reddit, forums, YouTube comments maybe, Twitter, anything? Everything.
Yeah. If you want to, you can hit me up on Twitter, you can post in the forums, you can post on Reddit, wherever it is, I'm out there and I'm reading. You have to post in English, unfortunately, but if you post it and I can find it, I'm going to read it and I'm going to think about it. So make sure you give us your feedback. And I think probably the best way, if you want to tweet at me directly, that's probably the best way. That way I make sure I read it. So.
Ja, very cool. Thank you very much for this interview. Und das war Thad Sasser, der Lead Multiplayer Designer von Battlefield Hardline.
Negotiations between the LA LAPD and a suspected drug ring have broken down. The LAPD is now prepared to free the hostages inside.